Okay, we did each person would get 2 minutes. Okay. Okay. I got you, Mark. I got you. Carry the seat.
Oh, yes. It's always interesting. It's always interesting. It's going to be an interesting year. Well, we'll see. She should be. She should be.
You know how everything's moved.
You know, and that's the truth.
Let's see if we see it. Nice talking to you. Okay, well, I'll set that. You too.
Have we read? Chief.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 6 p.m., November 19, 2019. And I call to order the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. And the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the City as Housing Asset Successor. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Fox?
Here.
Councilmember Gomez? Present. Councilmember Jones? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez?
Here.
Mayor Garcia?
Here. At this time, we will have the invocation, which will be delivered by Father Patrick Travers, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Police Chief Rick Messenger, so please stand.
Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, first I thank you for all who are gathered here tonight. Thank you for this City Council and their abilities to be involved in useful work and responsibilities they have undertaken. We ask you to give them wisdom to govern wisely amid the conflicting interests and issues of our nation and city, always being aware of the welfare and true needs of our community. Give them the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement. Instill a need for justice and confidence in the agenda set before them tonight, always remembering what would please you and them and what would benefit the constituents of the City of Victorville. Give this City Council peace in their lives and joy in their task. We thank you for the freedom to embrace you here and your many abundant blessings. In your name, most blessed name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please place the flag, hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
This evening, we do not have any proclamations or special presentations. I will ask our city clerk to present the agenda to council and any revisions to the agenda.
The City Council welcomes the public's participation in tonight's meeting. Anyone wishing to speak during public comment or on a particular item will be requested to submit a speaker card and hand it to the sheriff's deputy attending the meeting prior to the public comment or before an agenda item is discussed. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less as being necessary by the mayor. All communications are to be addressed directly to the City Council, not to the members of the audience. Persons should not approach the dais unless authorized to do so by the presiding officer. In accordance with state law, the City Council may not discuss or take action on any non-agenda items. The council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Any person or group who interferes with the conduct of the City Council meeting by interrupting and or disrupting the meeting is subject to removal. A peace officer may be requested to assist with the removal should any person or group fail to comply with an order of removal by the presiding officer. Any person or group who resists removal by a peace officer is subject to arrest and prosecution. Those are all the revisions, or there's no revisions to report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask if there's any conflict of interest on any agenda item by any council member or board member. Yes, sir? None? you for Representative Musket. I would like to ask you, this camera right there is facing me and
It's, as long as she is allowed to videotape the proceedings, as long as she does it in a manner that does not interrupt you or is within 24 inches of you, and she's not allowed to communicate with anybody. So it's just a recording. It's acceptable.
even if it's disturbing.
If it's getting to a point where it's disturbing you, then that can be problematic.
It is a problem.
Right now, the rules, personnel rules, the policy manual provides that if it's within 24 inches of a person, then it's probably deemed to be problematic, and this has got some distance to
But
it.
she can put her facing herself, still, but she's perfect.
Right, she is allowed to video the council meeting.
One more, thank you. This evening, we do not have any appeal hearings. Therefore, we move on to public hearings. And our first item, B1, a public hearing to hear arguments for and against the repeal of Victorville Municipal Code Section 222-140. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the city council introduce and waive further reading of ordinance number 2399, repealing Victorville Municipal Code Section 2.22.140.
Thank you. At this time, council members, should you have any questions of staff, 3-minute time limit, and I will start with Ms. Gomez.
Yes, so we're on item 1. Thank you. So, yes, for item B1, I noticed it's based on municipal code 2.2214. And I do have a couple of questions. There seems to be some modifications. Want to know what specifically the modifications are, contextualized, not to refer to the discussion. I did read the discussion. You have 2 noticing of the ordinance that are there, which don't say anything. That how, when we approve, is going to show new language, and I would like to know that. And there are no formal ordinances for the council to review tonight in regards to this item, so I think it's lacking merit to be even part of tonight's discussion. And where is the municipal code that merits the system or talks about it, or it's reinterpreted or interpreted, that points out to tonight's agenda?
Madam Mayor and members of the council, I think the staff report, really clarifies what this item is doing, and it does speak to repealing certain sections of our municipal code. And originally, this item was intended to be done at the same time that we had the first reading for C1 at the last council meeting. If you look at these in companion, as they were originally intended, this section effectively creates conflict with the new rules that we adopted that establish employee-employer relations. So with that, that's really the purpose for the item. I think the staff report identifies fairly clearly, particularly on page 9 in the background section, what sections of the municipal code are affected and effectively being repealed.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, no, it doesn't. So, for clarification, this is a 3-page document. It needs a really quick read. I've read it 3 times. And the interpretation of this document is not relational from my first reading, second, and even third reading, that it's contextualized for item C1, which is something that we'll do on the consent calendar. So even though it's very clear to you, Mr. Metzler, as a council person reading this interpretation, there's nothing in the ordinance code that talks about an employee merit system. And so my interpretation of this document, if we were to approve it tonight, really says we have something formally established, but it doesn't have a change in language for the municipal code to go ahead and be able to converge, mind you, with what you've contextualized today, which is a merit system of the employees. That's not clear here.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, again, I think it's fairly clear read when you actually look at the 4 pages that comprise the staff report, and it explains fairly well
this time, I open the public hearing. And I do not have any speaker cards. I close the public hearing. And Madam Clerk, please read the title of the ordinance number 2299.
Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville regarding the repeal of municipal code section 2.22.140.
Thank you. At this time, I need a motion and a second.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes.
So I move that the city council take action to place the recommendation set out on the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Cox. Any further comments?
Yes, so my rationale is here for the audience that didn't understand the question, how is contextualized interpretation is as follows. So I'm very disappointed at the level of agendizing this matter that are of utmost integral to our employees. This code should have first been initiated as a public hearing for our audience to approve of it. Therefore, the policies that were modified would have been procedurally next. However, this was not the case, and although the discussion labels it to be the municipal code as a modification of the merit system for its employees, rational executive members who selfishly incorporate employee relations should have come first to that general meeting so that anyone and everyone could have said what was important for those policies, whether they call it merits or not. There's nothing about the modification in the former or the present ordinance, and I cannot see how any council member who has the best interest of any city employee, regardless of the ranking in the city's hierarchy, could consciously vote for this item. This is what we call a tabula rasa, in other words, a blank slate for the administrative team to rewrite the municipal code, since it's not evidence in the ordinance that what is asking for tonight's adoption is literally what we are adopting. And I'm making a formal request for the CPRA to receive formal ordinances, any and all modifications to this code since 1971 as a hard copy in my inbox and also in my city email. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to respond. I don't know who's writing the material, but this is a simple repeal. Unless you are in agreement that you want an employees organization to sit down with individual council people and to meet with, communicate, and discuss with one or more members as individuals rather than the whole council. This is a repeal that should have been done a long time ago. In fact, at the time that it was put on there, it should have been repealed shortly after. It's not changing anything else, it's not doing any modifications, it's not adding addendums. It is a simple repeal. I have no idea where your language comes from, because it has nothing to do with a simple repeal. We still have, in fact, personnel system that we modified, personnel system will come before this council, it will be developed for a public hearing, and so I request that the council move on.
Any further comments?
Yes, if I may, if any of you read the very short ordinance, the ordinance from what we're looking at here presently that's supposedly going to be recommended to change has not changed if you go look on the computer on the municipal code. Therefore, the interpretation is if we have something right now that's not approved and you have a document here that says recommendation of approval of an ordinance to replace another and the language has not switched or changed, that implies that administration after the approval recommendation means you can change the language. And if that's not evident here in this document and there's no verbiage, legalese like you said, repeal, it's a matter of interpretation. It's black and white with these items, so that's why it's my comment. And I disagreed with what you said, have a different interpretation, but of course, this is, each one of us have a rational, reasonable way of looking at items of this nature.
Well, I have a question to the attorney. Mr. Attorney, is this anything more than a repeal of that section?
That's, all this is a repeal. It's eliminating this provision from the municipal code because that provision is inconsistent with both state law and the rest of the municipal code.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, as to the process, because I think there may be some confusion, so for the benefit of those that are in the audience, since this is dealing with a code-related matter, code-related matters are adopted by ordinance, even repeals of old codes. And so the typical process that a city goes through is advance noticing in the public newspaper, I believe it's 2 weeks, to at least announce that there's a public hearing. This meeting is effectively the public hearing, where we would open and close the public hearing to offer members of the public the opportunity to have question, comments, or raise concern. And then procedurally from there, presuming the council approves the item tonight, then ordinance is required to have a second reading, similar to some of the items that you'll see in C1, and not until after, I believe it's 30 days, Andre, after 30 days from the second reading of the ordinance, does it effectively become the new law? And that would be the time we would likely upload it into the system to revise the code as you see it on the website.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Now we move on to item B2. Request for continuance, a public hearing to hear arguments for and against various amendments to the Victorville Municipal Code. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council open the public hearing, take testimony, and continue the public hearing to the December 3rd, 2019 City Council meeting.
Thank you. I open the public hearing. I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, this item will be continued to the public hearing to December 3rd, 2019. Do we need a motion?
It would be helpful to have a motion and a second to do that, yes.
Yes, okay, I do need a motion and a second to continue.
I move that the public hearing be continued.
I second it. I have a motion by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez. Any further comments?
Well, I put in a speaker card,
Just rather-
as the general, yeah, and I have the right protected under the law to be able to speak and not submit a card, and I know that's my right. And so because I'm
Not
sorry,
from here, you can't do both. You can't.
there's comment right now, comment.
Ms. Gomez,
So on the comment
there's a
section.
motion right now to continue it. Your comments would be absolutely appropriate at the next meeting. It's
You
so
just said,
continue.
are there any comments? And if that's not the
We
case,
have-
okay, so then that was an error, no comments, right?
This is a comment on the motion to continue? Okay, so
So
she
I
can
did
make
this.
comments on the motion to continue.
Ms. Gomez, you can go ahead.
Actually, you should be making your comments from the dais because
Did
the
you not
public.
hear what Jim Cox said?
I'm correcting the system.
Okay, then correct him.
I am correcting.
Okay,
Right
I'm not
now,
anybody's animal, and I'm not domesticated. So, Mr. Cox, either you clarify.
I'll
allow me
clarify.
to speak on the comment, but
I'll
do
clarify.
not use
I'll
the
clarify.
authority of someone who's here. I
I'll
don't
clarify.
appreciate that.
I'll
I'm more than
clarify.
glad to walk
I'll
up there.
clarify. You turned in a card to speak.
Yes, I did.
The comment card, speakers are there. The
Absolutely.
city council speaks from here, so
Yes.
which one are you going to exercise?
I'm going to exercise my right as a council member, but if it's not granted, I place the item so I can speak as a public member.
So you're electing to speak as a council person.
Yes, I did.
Then you don't get to speak here then after you speak as a
Well,
council.
but I wasn't able to speak as a council member, was I?
I don't know if you're not, that was the question.
No, I wasn't.
that was the question we were asking. Right now, there's a motion and a second. Each council member has the ability to talk on the motion and the second. So you do have the floor right now to talk on.
Okay, so then you don't need my public comment, you can disregard it, I'm rescinding it since we've clarified it all up here. So I do have a couple of questions for staff and I have a comment. It's why is this item being continued? There is no clarification as to why. What was the rationale of agendizing the content? And I also have a lot of issue with putting 5, 6 items in one. It really does water the vote. It really does water your 3 minutes. So instead of having 3 minutes per item, per topic, you no longer get that, it's clustered. So I'm saddened to see how this governmental agency as a societal group has decided to place several topics under one hearing, not making each of its own access to the communities. This type of clustering under one item is not only seemingly untransparent, but also lackadaisical in nature. In other words, a lazy methodology in strategically distancing the public from having a fair and equitable process from addressing each topic, which is addressed in its own merits. This means that the 3 minutes are watered down because all of the unrelated topics clustered and bunched up are forcing the public comment to be diminished from its First Amendment rights of the people to speak on each item for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my apologies for the confusion. This item, ideally, and perhaps we're a little bit overzealous as staff in trying to schedule these ordinances to be ready. We had actually been working on these ordinances for quite some time, and we'd actually done the requisite publications, anticipating that we would be here before you tonight. But even as of today, staff was working on some final tweaks to at least those draft ordinances to make sure we're actually getting them to say what we want them to say. And generally speaking, I think just to give a perspective on what you can envision, we're targeting the next meeting. These are ordinances that are dealing with regulating cannabis, commercial cannabis in residential areas is an issue that we've been running into. We've got to further regulate that area. I think there's another one dealing with making our code a little bit more strict in dealing with fireworks in residential areas and throughout the city. We do anticipate bringing those up first meeting in December.
Thank you for that clarification.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez to continue. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need clarification, is it continuous as is, or was it modified just to continue it?
Just to continue it.
Okay, so that means that this language will not appear on the first meeting for December, right?
The ordinances will be brought back for consideration by the board at the first meeting in December, and they have fully noticed this public hearings.
Okay, so it's just gonna come as is. Okay, my vote is no.
Motion carries with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Now I move on to item B3. The public hearing to hear arguments for and against an amendment to the Victorville Municipal Code adopted statement dated 2019, Title 24 Fire Codes. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the city council conduct a public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding ordinance number 2405 and the municipal code amendment, and introduce and waive for the reading of ordinance number 2405, which includes various amendments to chapter 8.08 of Title 8 of the City of Victorville Municipal Code regarding the adoption of state mandated fire codes.
Thank you. At this time, council members, you can have 3 minutes to ask questions of staff. I will start with Ms. Gomez.
So just acknowledging that we're going to be modifying chapter 8.08 of Title 8. We know that that does not only have one item that's mutually exclusive with the amendment of talking about, and when I see this item, I just look at Greg Benson, because it's all about the fire department. And in looking at that, my only clarification is because it's implicit and inferred with the language. Implicit and inferred does not mean it's explicit. So I need clarification if we're only adopting state mandates for the 2019 for Titles 8, which include chapter 8.08. In other words, nothing outside of the fire department.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I think it's a fairly interesting way of putting that, but I think to say it as the staff report effectively articulates, it's similar to what we did at the last council meeting where state code, state of California commonly updates its building, and in this case, fire codes. I believe they do it every 3 years. And just as we did in the last council meeting, we had to make sure that our local building codes matched the newly adopted state building codes. This item does effectively the same thing when it comes to state fire codes. So this is bringing our local fire codes in compliance, making them compatible with the state fire code, does nothing more and nothing less.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the key word here was only, and I appreciate that. We understand that Legalese is very important, especially in our government documents, so I appreciate that clarification.
Any other questions? Anyone else? At this time, I open the public hearing. I do not have any speaker cards. I close the public hearing. And, Madam Clerk, please read the title of the ordinance number 2405.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville amending Title 8 of the Victorville Municipal Code, introducing various amendments within Chapter 8.08 of Title 8, adopting state mandated 2019 Title 24 fire codes.
Thank you. At this time, I need a motion and a second.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Mayor Garcia. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Moving on to item B4, a public hearing to hear arguments for and against the approval of a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation and monitoring reporting program for the Amethyst Pipeline Alignment Water Main Extension Project. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the Victorville Water District Board of Directors adopt resolution number VWD 19-009, approving the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation and monitoring reporting program for the Amethyst Pipeline Alignment Water Main Extension Project.
Thank you. At this time, council members, if you have any questions of staff, I'll start with Ms. Gomez.
Questions?
Okay. At this time, I open the public hearing. I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, I close the public hearing, and I request a motion and a second.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that the Victorville Water District, Board of Directors take action in accordance with the recommendations set forth on the agenda.
I'll second that. I'm sorry, it's really difficult to hear Ms. Jones. I don't know if anybody else had difficulty in the back, but I sure did.
I can hear.
Can the audience hear me?
Not very well. Not very well.
It's not off, it's on.
Right, let's see now. Bingo. Everyone can, I can hear myself. Got it. All right, so where was I? Did I make the motion?
Would you repeat that?
We read the motion. Yes, that the Victorville Water District Board of Directors take action in accordance with the recommendations set out on the agenda.
Second. Motion made by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Gomez. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to consent calendar. Consent calendar items C1 through C7 may be approved with one motion.
Move approval of consent calendar.
Second.
There's three items in that C1, C6, and C7 that I'd like to discuss.
So which one? C1?
C1, C6, and C7, and that's my motion. C1, C6, and C7.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
there a second? There being no second, that motion dies. I have a motion by Councilmember Cox and a second by Mayor Garcia to approve items C1 through C7. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I also submitted a card as a public member to speak on those items.
If there's a card, it'd be appropriate to either, if you speak down there, then you cannot speak up here on.
Okay, Andre, did you not see that the vote didn't go through? I'm not being allowed to speak. I'm not gonna go against the chair. There's a vote and no second. So that means that I can only,
You have the ability to speak, I'm just saying, if you leave the dais and you want to speak on it down there, you don't have your ability to speak on it.
so if I have a choice, I wanna speak as a council member, obviously. I mean, I don't know if
I think
that's,
that would be appropriate to allow her 3 minutes to speak on it. Yeah.
I allow.
are you gonna set it like you did last time at the very end, or is it need to address it now? Because that was policy stated to me that it would be thrown at the end.
It would be at the end if there was a motion to move those items. That motion failed, therefore the time to speak would be right now.
So for item C1, if you would give me the opportunity to understand these systemic merits that are being changed in terms of case law, but I'd like for that to be contextualized with item B1, not decontextualized or distanced in any regard. I see that the word to rescind, which means literally ousting the former ordinance to supplant any ordinance. However, the language to rescind has very legal complications in this matter, and I would like either the city attorney and or both the manager and the city attorney to address this specific matter in contextualizing this item with B1. And the C6 is I'd like to know that this item has more than doubled. It's at $3.4 million. Were there any anomalies or any expenses that caused the increase? Like I said, this has doubled. I've been paying attention to the markings of the monies and the appropriations. The last one, C7, we have a minute action order for receiving an apportionment of approximately $1 million. My issue with this item is, despite the fact that it does not have the term emergency, as a council member and a voice for the community as a whole, if we are continuously going to be doing minute orders without the general consent of the public to have their public comment during the D items, a C consent item means that there's absolutely no issue. I have issue with this item because it really proceeds to be something that's covert, and I think as a public agency, we are supposed to be as possibly as we can generically open to this, and a C item to me makes it seem like minute order, emergency appropriation, let's get it done. $1 million is not easy out of even my own very pocket, and I don't think of all of our pockets together.
Madam Mayor, if it's okay, I can answer the question for C1, and that is, at the last council meeting, you had a full public hearing on that item and a full staff report. This is just a second reading of the ordinance, that's why the agenda items on this is that second reading, because the full public forum was held at the prior November meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Anthony did address the word rescind, which is the crux of what I wanted to talk about. I know Brendan was branded not, but just the term to rescind. This is the first time in its language that I see it on this specific matter.
Rob, sorry if you don't follow what you're reading and doing.
Madam Mayor, members of council, as to item 6, that's dealing with commercial demand. So if to assume that it's supposed to be uniformly similar every single council meeting, that's probably an unfair expectation of what this amount is going to look like on a recurring basis, just because the nature of our business changes. For example, if we're in a period of time where we're actually building a major construction project, for example, and that could be something that triggers a meaningful difference on the commercial side of our business as to actual checks being cut. So I can't speak to specifically why this is different than perhaps the last one, but the nature of the business changes from period to period. As to C7, that's a request for revenue. So really this is an attempt to get LTF, which is local transportation funds, the residual amount that is not spent on mass transit, in our case BVTA. The staff report identifies that LTF, which is a component of the collective 7.75% sales tax. There's a small amount in there that is for local transportation amounts. Staff report identifies that this city generated about $4.87 million, of which residual available for us to use for local improvements is the $1 million we're actually requesting from San Bernardino County Transportation Authority.
Thank you, maybe she'll understand that properly.
So let me overtly state the issue with this matter. It's not the explanation or the thought experiment behind it. The issue with this is we're doing a minute action. No resolution, no ordinance. Why? It's not typical, it's not normal, it's not procedural. I'm taking issue with the way we're taking this to the public. The other thing, you have 30 seconds. When our vendor commercial list more than doubles, I take issue with that too. And all I'm asking is for why it did it. Not a general explanation of, well, the general business does this. I've been here in this council for 3 years. It's not typical to more than double. And all I'm asking is for accountability. Thank you.
Question. If this is atypical, we need to know where it's atypical. Again, the innuendo is that somebody has done something wrong. And so I know that the gas bill is higher winter than it is in summer. But I didn't know that we needed to go line by line. But we have the one from the last meeting that anybody can look at and compare item by item. And also, we received money from another agency. I don't understand the issue there, but I'd like for the city manager to explain it. Is it atypical not to accept it? Not to put it on the council agenda?
I think it's very typical that we do put these on the agenda. I think it's something we do in this particular case on an annual basis. I'm not convinced that anything that Councilmember Gomez suggested not being typical, I'm not convinced that that's the case. I think the way we handle things are very typical and quite honestly very transparent.
Thank you. That's all I can say.
Okay, well, I'd like to make an oral request to get all for the last 3 years be authorized by minute actions.
Is
Every
your time
single
up?
one. Thank you.
Is your time up?
I have a motion by Councilmember Fox, seconded by Mayor Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with Councilmember Gomez voting no.
Now we move on to written communications.
I need clarification, those are the three items, right?
Wildfire mitigation plan for
As
the
a point of order, I have clarification, it was listed for the 3 items, right?
No, the vote was on all items.
I pulled 3. I don't have an issue with the others.
You were given you did not get a second to pull the 3 items.
Okay, thank you.
I am on written communications, item D1, before I was interrupted by Ms. Gomez. Wildfire mitigation plan for the city of Victorville Municipal Utility Services. Madam Clerk, please read your recommendation.
That the city council approve resolution number 19-086, a resolution of the city council adopting a wildfire mitigation plan for Victorville Municipal Utility Services.
Thank you. At this time, I'm asking council members if they have any questions of staff, a 3-minute time limit. I will start with Ms. Gomez.
As a point of order, I'd like to let the general public understand that I was doing a query of formal debate of meeting as whether there was a correct procedure
Did you
being done.
item?
So there was nothing of interruption to the chair. She just doesn't have to understand what's
Did you
going
item?
on. So again, as a point of order, I was seeking clarification and now I am being interrupted and this is part of my questioning.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. So with this one, I'm looking at the utilities. Clearly, it's a public entity that the government we own, right? The POUs. The only thing here I'm looking at is what we're approving. Because we're approving this today, I know that it's probably 2 or 3 weeks that we had fires. We had a lot of emails as council, and I received some information from the city manager. Had we already practiced the consult with the local fire department and the entities with responsibility for the control of wildfires if they were relevant in this area, and they were happening here. So they were, but I don't know, contextualized with a government entity, was that done or perceived in that manner?
Madam Mayor and Council, I believe the appropriate approach to this would be to stress that the report that you have before you, the plan you have before you, is part of a larger plan that we are focusing on with the city. And we do automatic aid and mutual aid with various agencies in the area to address the wildfire response that you're referring to.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any questions for anyone else? No? I do not have any speaker cards. Therefore, I need a motion in a second. Second.
Madam Mayor, move to approve resolution 19-086, wildfire mitigation plan for municipal utility services.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Mayor Garcia. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now I move on to item D2, Energy Services Agreement for the required California Independent System Operator Scheduling Coordinating Services. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation, please.
That the City Council approve the Energy Services Agreement with Zico Global for scheduling and coordinating services in the amount not to exceed $117,000 for a 3-year term.
Thank you. Council members, questions of staff, 3-minute time limit. I'll start with Ms. Gomez.
Yes, so to me, this reads all over the page, outsourcing and the typical word of privatization of our products and services. We're consulting a firm, it's gone out to bid, I'm assuming it's not piggyback.
That's correct.
And my question here is, do we not have enough manpower in the city of Victorville? What are the benefits and the impacts of not being able to keep something here? If we do have a group of individuals that can handle this, why is it being outsourced?
The reason it's outsourced, it requires a 24-hour man desk for the ISO to contact you at any given time, and we don't have the staffing or the manpower to schedule a 24/7 desk. So.
And my question, I mean, legitimate 24 hours is required, so I can see that, but now I'm going to presume that it's been 24 hours from today's timing. Do we anticipate perhaps in the history of the city of Victorville bringing up a team that could do something of this nature, whether it's on call? Have we talked about it in staff consulting meetings?
No, mainly the reason for it is it's much cheaper for the size that we are to contract it out. When I talk about 24-hour desk, it's not an on-call. I mean, you must have somebody at a computer wait for the ISO to call you at any given time and schedule your information. You're constantly in contact with the ISO 24/7. So you can't be like on call and pick up a phone. You must be in front of a computer, and they'll send you what they call slick tickets that tell you what to do or not to do. And so that requires immediate response within 15 seconds. So it's impossible for us to actually man that kind of zone.
Okay, and so, I mean, I probably got the interpretation of 24 hours because I'm presuming that it's from this point and then pushing back 24 hours. And you've clarified that pretty much that's not the case. I just interpreted it that way. Is that accurate?
I'm not quite sure what the question is, ma'am.
24 hours?
Yeah, what it requires is you have somebody sitting at a computer 24 hours every day, 7 days a week, and to respond to any ISO request for information.
I just figured 24 hours was an emergency and the
Oh, no.
popped in, but it doesn't.
No, that is not an emergency on-call type situation, no.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any other questions?
I do not have any speaker cards on this item. Therefore, I need a motion in a second.
A move is recommended by staff.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilmember Gomez, seconded by Councilmember Cox. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Now we move on to item D3, annual purchase order request for Mojave Water Agency, Bank, water supplies for High Desert Power Project. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
That the Victorville Water District Board of Directors approve the annual purchase order request to the Mojave Water Agency in the amount of $289,000 for stored water rights on behalf of the High Desert Power Project.
Thank you. Questions of staff by council members? After a minute,
Question.
Yes, Jim.
My understanding that this is passed through, this, the city gets reimbursed for the full amount.
That's correct.
So did we get an administrative fee for going through all the process of making the water arrangements available?
I don't believe there's an administrative fee on this one.
I think the administrative fees that you may be thinking of are more related to the arrangement we have with High Desert Power related more so to the ASR wells, which are the injection and extraction. This is a little bit different in the sense that an alternative form of water that was agreed to be made available basically wheeled through our domestic system from the RQ project. High Desert Power is allowed to use us to pull water from the state water project, basically spread it at the spreading basins, bank it in the ground, and it's available for future use, sand drought years. So we're merely a pass-through conduit for the banking operation. That's what this is really dealing with, is the banking.
Thank you.
Question. I'd like to know, as a result of this agreement, is there any possibility that the city of Victorville will ever have a shortage of water? Is this a precaution to prevent that possibility?
So this is not really water coming out of our basin. This is state water that they're purchasing. So it's water we would not have purchased regardless. So no, it's not impacting our ability to purchase water, store water, have water for the future.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. So, Mr. Messler, it was clearly vague to me, your explanation, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it. If your response still is the same, I'll take it as a response. However, I'm looking at this item, it was talking about storage water. When I see the word High Desert Power Project, the first thing that comes to my mind is several years ago there was an issue with the city of Victorville losing millions of dollars that we still have not paid in debt. Perhaps it is not related, but I would like clarity today for that regard, because right now it kind of mixes and it teeters off where it can have some type of understanding that's related or not.
I believe you're referring to a project that we call Victorville 2, or VV2 was the acronym I used. This is a completely separate project. This is High Desert Power Project, the existing 830 megawatt combined cycle plant that's existing and operational at SCLA.
Thank you for the explanation. No further questions.
Thank you. I do not have any speaker cards on this item. Therefore, I need a motion and a second.
Yes, Madam Mayor, may I move that the Victorville Water District Board of Directors take action in accordance with the recommendations set forth on the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Mayor Garcia. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item D4, grant award statewide healthy play initiative. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the City Council adopt resolution number 19-095 and award the purchase and installation of playground equipment to Playcore Game Time for replacement of the playground at Doris Davies Park.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask council members if they have any questions of staff. I'll start with Ms. Gomez.
Yes. Specifically, was this item accessible to CSAC, which is the Community Services Advisory, for their input?
Unfortunately, no. During the time of this application, we were having trouble convening our meetings. We did not have a quorum. So
Sorry, you had trouble what?
we did not have the ability to meet the quorum to conduct our meetings, so we did not want to pass up the grant opportunity, so we proceeded without their consultation.
So no quorum was met. Do you know what month that was approximately? The reason I'm asking is because I've heard that for whatever reason, the CSAC hasn't been meeting as often as they should, even with the appointment that I did have. Prior to, there was no meetings, it was very short, so I don't understand what was taking place there.
This application was due in August, so there have been occasions where we did not have a quorum. There have also been occasions where we simply did not have agenda items, but that would have not been the case.
Oh, okay, thank you for that clarification, that helps out. The other thing is, was this issue addressed or brought up to in regard to Healthy Victorville with Jamie Lynch? So the public can have information in that regard?
Not in the Healthy Victorville meetings. No.
So my understanding of the community services is perhaps to bring it to our advisory board for CSAC, and it's also my understanding that perhaps it would also go to Healthy Victorville. That's because I've attended those meetings and it seems relevant, but I don't know if it was a discretionary choice or how that process works. I just want to understand it a little better.
Normally, the process would be to take this to CSAC, but as I explained, we were having difficulty establishing the quorum. I'm not familiar with this something like this having gone to the Healthy Victorville group. We certainly could do that going forward, but in this case, that did not occur.
Okay, thank you for responding to my questions. I have no further questions.
Question. Can you tell me the reason why the Doris Davis Park was selected for the playground? Is it because of a better service to the population of the city of Victorville? Can you tell me that?
This park was selected. We actually have 3 park sites where the equipment is quite dated, and this was one of them that was flagged as a priority for replacement to modernize the equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have another question. Is this relational to the Brentwood? Because I know something was approved by this council. Does it have anything to do with this? Is this separate appropriations of monies and grants?
This is entirely separate.
Thank you.
I do not have any speaker cards, therefore I need a motion in a second.
Madam Mayor, if I could, we do have a video prepared, and we also have our consultant who helped us design the playground.
Wonderful.
It would be a couple minutes if you want.
I'd love to see it. Is beautiful. Now, this equipment is designed for children with physical disabilities?
The design does incorporate several elements that are for inclusive play, but it is not an all-inclusive playground.
But I saw that there is some.
May I ask a question? I saw no tetherball and no more, and the one that goes up and down, I forgot.
Seesaw.
Yeah, how come? Hi.
Well, there are so many options to choose from when you're designing a playground, and those are certainly considerations for future.
You hurt yourself hitting the ball, and you think so?
I
mean,
don't
I'm
know.
so passionate.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly, as we move through our master plan, we can consider adding those, but in this particular design, those were not included.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, thank you. So the playground does look quite lovely. Is it going to be wood chips?
This one will be wood chips, yes.
Okay, and we're going to make sure that we take care of that with, I mean, there's stray animals and that typically can become a cat box.
Yes, our park staff are out there daily making sure that we
Okay.
clean.
Very good. And then with regard to at least somewhat addressing the needs of our community that has special needs, I noticed on this it does have some sensory components to it, but really those are good for the development of a typical child, right? So it doesn't really have anything separate for those that might have sensory integration deficits and so forth. So one of the things that certainly I would want you to do business the way that you normally would, but it would mean a lot to our community of children and adults with disabilities to be able to have something that shows that we're leaning into them. For example, one of the most basic experiences that people have in life is swinging on a swing. And for so many people who have strong cognitive impairment or physically disabled or in a wheelchair, they don't get to experience that. And I know that some organizations are building equipment where it's adaptive, where you can put a wheelchair onto a swinging device. For me, the reason that particular one is so important is because for those with sensory integration deficits, that's one of the tools that occupational therapists use to help build core awareness and core stability. So it would have kind of a therapeutic benefit as well, which is the reason that we have playground equipment, right? It helps to develop us. So anyway, that would be my preference. Of course, you conduct business the way that you normally would, but I know our community of those with unique challenges would certainly appreciate any consideration the city might give. Thank you.
No question. Who applied for the grant?
The city applied, the Community Services Department.
Is it your department?
Yes.
Thank you. Good work.
Yeah, thank you so much. No other questions? I need a motion in a second.
The motion is really long, and Mayor, but it would move to adopt number one, staff recommendation of resolution number 1905, and two, with the purchase and installation of playground equipment as proposed by the staff.
Second. Motion made by Councilmember Fox, seconded by Mayor Garcia. Any further comments?
Yes, I appreciate the fact that you took the time to assemble something of this visually so that we can interact in the public as well. As for my feedback, it's my understanding that locally there hasn't been any park in the state of California that is an all-inclusive park. There's one park not too far from us down the hill that is working, and another one in Rialto that are clearly trying to match those aspects. I don't know if the city council would in the future encourage at least one park in the city of Victorville to have an all-exclusive, which would include definitely a swing. The city of Rialto is currently anticipated for the last 2 years doing something like that. And they're mirroring another city, I forgot which city, that actually has a plan in place. So it's not just ADA compliant, right? It literally goes for the children so that their disabilities are really engaged there, because a lot of children with disabilities cannot or should not and will not engage with other children because that just, the parents won't bring them there. So hopefully this council would encourage in the future to do something of that nature.
Any further comments? Motion made by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Mayor Garcia. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Moving on to item D5, Nino and more technical, I think I pronounced it correct, and environmental services consultant agreement. Madam Clerk, read the recommendation.
That the city as Housing Assets Successor Board of Directors approve the Nino and More Geotechnical and Environmental Services Consulting Agreement by and between the City of Victorville as successor to the housing assets of the Victorville Redevelopment Agency for services related to groundwater monitoring and sampling on the former New Wake dry cleaners in the amount not to exceed $1,457,598, and authorize the Deputy City Manager to execute the consultant agreement.
Thank you. Council members, any questions of staff? 3-minute time limit. Let's start with Ms. Gomez.
Yeah, so I had a brief moment, but this is still not clarified. So the housing asset of the city of Victorville and the redevelopment agency, I really thought the redevelopment agency was dissolved in 2012. And when I see the word water, I just think about us as the district acting on behalf of the city of Victorville. So I just really wanted clarification on that term, and also the word housing assets. I associate it a lot with federal and state types of grants and funding. I know Sophie has on occasion tried to explain a little bit with the development with the assets and any auditing. But when I bring those two, they just bring more confusion than clarity. And then you add the third aspect of cleaning, which is New Way Dry. It was my understanding with the conversation of administration, executive team, and council present that there was no issue in terms of contamination. The contamination didn't go anywhere. It was done and over with. And the concern here with these three topics coming together as one is we've discussed perhaps the property of some regard leaving the hands of the city of Victorville. So now it brings me a little bit more concern with dry cleaning, the amount, what's going to be happening. It could just be procedural, but it has not been explained in that matter. Just a couple of weeks ago, it was more of a detriment, and I know Mayor Pro Tem Rita Ramirez had asked those same very questions, decontextualized from today's item.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, I think first to address some of the early questions. As it relates to our water district, just to be clear, this has nothing to do with us acting as the Victorville Water District or anything to do with our production or delivery of water effectively to the residents and the commercial users in Victorville. This more so has to deal with the water table and contaminants discovered by a former dry cleaning facility, which was the New Way dry cleaner. And many years ago, and Sophie can give me the specific date, actually it's right there in the staff report, it's back in 2007 when the then RDA, Redevelopment Agency, when it was in existence, the RDA, as a separate legal body from the city, funded the acquisition of that property. As you flash forward to 2012, when in fact the redevelopment agencies were dissolved, there was a process that was created effectively to wind down the former affairs of the redevelopment agency, and state law created what's called successor agencies, which in this particular item, and if you look at the heading of the staff report, you're actually acting in the capacity as the housing asset successor. So it's the housing functions of the former redevelopment agency that you're effectively serving the capacity of trying to wind down the affairs. This particular property is a little bit more complicated in the sense that winding down the affairs requires some environmental remediation. And for many years, with the help of our consultant, Minu and Moore, in fact, they've been working with us from day one, and Mr. Prasad is here in attendance. He can answer the more specific technical questions to speak to, obviously, the remediation that has been done thus far, which has largely been soil related, but we've also done an extensive amount of monitoring, and with our consultants' help, we've been successful, again, serving as the housing asset successor in being able to get a grant in the order of this staff report, or this staff item, which is $1,457,598. With that grant that Minu and Moore helped us procure, it's going to allow us to further our remediation efforts to now deal with not only continued monitoring, but further groundwater remediation through chemical oxidation type process. I can't tell you what that is, but Mr. Prasad can. But nonetheless, this really takes us to the next step. It's likely a 3 to 4 year process, 3 years of work, probably 4 years to do the actual reporting and hopefully the closeout by that point in time. But that's kind of the evolution from the RDA to your role here today. And your role here today is serving not as a city, but as the housing asset successor of the former redevelopment agency.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all that information.
And I have another question in regards to that. When I heard the word Lahontan Regional Water, it gets a little fluttered in my mind. I mean, we just have a settlement. Has this anything to do with that? When I hear the word Lahontan, it's separate, I'm assuming?
It doesn't. It does not. Lahontan has a pretty broad reach when it comes to managing water quality in our water table. So the item that you're thinking of is the item that we dealt with in the last meeting, where Lahontan, the same water quality control body, in their capacity of regulating permits that they issue to sewer districts or sewer authorities. That was where Lahontan was working with us on that item, where we had to settle a matter involving a number of sanitary system overflows. This is a completely different area of responsibility that the Water Quality Control Board is responsible for, but still dealing altogether with the global effect of water quality in the groundwater.
And let me laud you for that explanation, because for the first time you not only have contextualized, but let me understand further what you have done, so one of its kind. So I'm going to go ahead and say congratulations to helping me understand something that I find at times very difficult.
Anyone else? No? I do not have any speaker cards. At this time, I ask for a motion and a second.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that the city as housing asset successor board of directors approve or take action in accordance with the recommendations set out on the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Mayor Garcia. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to item D6, Microsoft Enterprise Agreement Renewal and Office 365 software subscription. Madam Clerk, please read your recommendation.
That the City Council approve the enterprise agreement with Microsoft for the renewal of existing Microsoft operating systems, client and server, licensing and addition of the Office 365 subscription, which includes Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, as well as cloud-based email and communication software.
Thank you. Council members, any questions of staff? Ms. Gomez?
Yes. So presuming that this is keeping up with technology, which is something that we always want to keep up with. My thing is, recently the City Council approved monies for revamping and buying a lot of computers for a lot of the departments, if I may add. But it was my understanding that besides revamping, we had a website and that we have access to, hopefully the best translations that we can, although the translations were not very clear in Spanish, and Google doesn't do justice in that regard. But I anticipated that something of this nature was already embedded within that, but if it's not, it was a piecemeal, because right now I'm questioning what did we approve of if we're gonna approve this now?
So there's many types of Microsoft licensing that you need to use the Microsoft suites. I tried to explain that in the staff report. There's the licenses for the software itself. So like when we buy the computer, we get a license to run the Windows client on there. That's just the version at that date and time when you buy it. So if we bought computers 2 years ago, it would have came with version 7. If you buy it now, it comes with 10. We're moving everyone to 10, so we have to have a client operating system license for Windows 10 as we move those older computers that came with 7 to 10. And then when it comes to accessing the servers, the databases, the website you're speaking of, you need client access licenses for Microsoft to utilize those different technologies, the SQL databases, the web services that our website CMS runs on top of. So you have to buy that software that runs on top of that, and then the actual server that enables the software to run on is powered by various Microsoft technologies, and you need licenses for the server, for the database, for the web application, as well as the client access licenses for the employees and people to connect to those services.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. The only thing I don't understand is, was there a reason why we did, I mean, it's not been a year since we did the website. I mean, if it has, I mean, it's flown by, but I don't foresee.
So this doesn't have anything directly to do with the website. The website CMS that I think you're talking about, that runs through Vision, and that's a different company, and there's a different software license for this. These are our software licenses to use the Microsoft technologies that kind of enable us to run all of those services. The Windows computers you're using right now, you're using a server software that's connected to our file servers, our authentication server, you know, when you log in and type your name, and you need licenses for those. And every year we annually pay based on the number of users we have in our system to Microsoft for the rights to those licenses. So we do this every year.
Okay, so my question was really related. Wouldn't it have been conducive for us to do everything at one time, knowing, and then prorate the cost, or what? Or this, it's just wouldn't have been the case. We can't prorate. The licenses expire, and that's the best benefit that we're going to get to use it as an advantage. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, if I'm going to go make turkey and buy turkey, why am I going to go the day of and then 2 weeks prior buy the pie, kind of a deal?
I think a better way to look at it is this is every year we have to pay for the rights and the licenses to use the Microsoft technologies we use here. And that enables us to use various versions of Windows and Office and servers and stuff. And then a lot of those base technologies that we use Microsoft for, we have other applications that run on top of that. The website, InterGov Munis, that you also have to pay annually for those licenses and those rights to use those systems. Is that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks
Okay.
for the explanation. What other questions?
Sure.
Now, my understanding is this is an updated version of what we have, which of course should be more progressive and faster. But is it always the case that you also check for security in terms of hacking and all that nature?
So that's sorry.
So that would not be the possibility that we would be one of those clients of people who want to take advantage, correct?
Yeah, and that's why we annually pay for our subscriptions and get rights to the new versions of the software coming out, so we can stay current and have access to the security patches and updates. If you don't stay current and you fall behind and you're using older software, that makes you much more susceptible to those types of scenarios you're talking about.
So you're certain we're safe, right?
We do the best we can to keep us as safe as possible.
I have a comment, so I'll continue that comment. I think those were all the questions. Thank you so much. At this time, I do not have any speaker cards for this item here. Therefore, I need a motion in a second. Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that the City Council take action in accordance with the recommendations set out on the agenda. Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Mayor Garcia. Any further comments?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So on the notice, cybersecurity, just as a reminder, the organization that does our annual audit does have a component to it where they do check for our strength in terms of cybersecurity. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Motion made by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Mayor Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Now we move on to item D7, appointment to Community Services Advisory Committee. The recommendation is that any action is at the discretion of the City Council. This item will be presented by Councilmember Gomez.
So Mr. Ramirez, who is present today, would be the perfect addition to the CSEC, which is related to community services. And there would be a lot of advisory from that organization or committee to the council. The ultimate decision does come to each one of us when we cast our vote. Not only does he have a wealth of information and experience very related to the community service as a whole, he has made a very strong, valuable, dedicated presence to these council meetings without a skip of a beat. And as a matter of fact, the recommendation from my former CSEC committee member came from him. So not only did he bring someone who was valuable to give information and to be a part of the CSAC committee, now he himself is stepping forward for that acknowledgement and for the approval of his presence today here. That's what I have to share. So with that, I would make the motion if it's.
Well, I have to continue here.
Okay.
Are there any questions from council members of staff?
Mr. Rodriguez, may I speak, address you?
Yes, please. Good evening.
Your resume, and I was very impressed, and I would like to ask one question. When approved, is it possible for you to do a program of equestrian using the horses for the disabled children and adults? I think that we need to look at the health, mental health, as well as physical health. And are you able to maybe put a program together that we could actually have as a park and rec program for those children who would be aided because of their disability? Is it possible?
Yes, it is very possible with the permission of the city allowing permitting process. That's called echinotherapy, and I've worked with that before. And that is my kung fu, the horse roll. I've been on top of a horse since I was in my mom's stomach. She was horse people. We've been horse people for various generations, and we've seen all the benefits that the horse community brings to the youth. And we started some roping schools and cowboy schools in the.
So there could be a total program for the mental and body health of children and adults, correct?
Would
it be expensive?
No, basically the people that have the horses, they run it. Most of them that have the horses, they donate their times. They're mostly retired people that have the horses that do benefit the young children, and if they do, it's been very minimal cost. The only place that we do recommend, we would like to have maybe a lighted arena in the inner city, like we did with the other schools that we started in Baldwin Park, Miraloma, Santa Ana, Valdo, New Mexico, and Chicago, Illinois. Because the outward communities, they already handle their people. But we want to bring in people that have never seen a horse, been on top of a horse, especially bring the new kind of therapy to these people that they could try. And it's worked in various hospitals in various countries. The echinotherapy has been very, very fruitful for all these kids, especially the children with the spectrum and special needs people.
On the question of culture, I know you have the chapel organization. Is it possible, if at all, to establish one of those organizations here in the high desert?
We already have several organizations. They're just not registered. They're more freelance. But we have 15 organizations down the hill, about 30 minutes away, Escaramuzas and child organizations that belong to American Child Association under our command.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
I do have one speaker card, Maggie Martin.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. Good evening, Your Honor, Counsel. My comments are in reference to Agenda Item D7 and are regarding Mr. Romero Rodriguez's interest in being appointed to the City of Victorville's Community Services Advisory Committee. I am specifically addressing his cover letter and resume, which I have thoroughly reviewed. I have found his cover letter and resume very lacking in professional content, quality, or polish. Examples as follows. Number 1, the cover letter has an incomplete email address for Mr. Metzler. Number 2, there's an inappropriate salutation. 3, there is a gross lack of proper spelling and punctuation. And 4, there is any lack of supporting documentation regarding Mr. Rodriguez's involvement with, quote, youth programs and organizations nationwide. In any professional resume I have seen or composed, pardon me just one moment, there are several components to it, which include, at minimum, the following: paying, employment history, objectives, education, skills, experience, personal references, hobbies, volunteering, outside interests, etc. Based on the above, I ask the following question of this council. What experience outside of the Charo Association, parentheses, a club, organization or sport, actually it's a historical society, does Mr. Rodriguez have that would make him a well-rounded and qualified candidate for this position? I do not see anything on his resume that would suggest applicable qualifications. Rather, I see a resume filled with a lot of talk and no substance. This applicant likes to tell everyone how he was born, raised, and educated in America. His resume doesn't even remotely reflect that. What is, quote, Mark Keppel, end quote? Are we to assume this is high school or what? Is he a high school or college graduate from anywhere? It's not stated. Additionally, he doesn't even say exactly where he was born. Let me tell you, that concerns me, and it should concern every American citizen right along with this council. Furthermore, this is the same man who comes to this council and tries to tell you and the executive staff how to do your job, and what a miserable failure you are. He is flagrantly critical of the council and executive staff, thereby not supportive of the city of Victorville, and he's constantly complaining about how you spend the taxpayers' dollars, while all along supporting, yet forgetting who the biggest monetary waste on this council is. Ms. Gomez, $93,000 in legal expenses in 1 year. Your Honor, Counsel, I am dismayed by this sloppy paper presentation, but here's the plus side. He has just now proven on public record that he is not at all what he claims to be, thereby shattering all of his personal illusions of grandeur. I apologize to the council for my harshness, but I come from the old school philosophy, which is this: put up or shut up, neither of which he can seem to do. Thank you.
Thank you. The next card that I have is from Rodriguez.
I didn't want to come up here and speak a second time, but I just want to clarify a lot of things. I wasn't born in Kenya or Hawaii. I was actually born in Belvedere, the city in East LA in Santa Marta Hospital, like where Cheech and Chong, when the next movie was at. I lived all my life in business, and I lived all my life managing a business. I had to drop out of school in order to take over the business. I've gone from up down, but Charreria and the horse world has really brought a presence and essence to my life and significance. I've traveled all around the country. I'm actually semi-retired already, but I do contract work for the rodeo industry when they contract me to put a charro, a Mexican presence, in the rodeos, whether it be PRCA, NRA, PRA, even as much as national finals in Las Vegas. I've done events for them. So I'm under contract for them. So I've already done everything I had to do. Like I said, I'm semi-retired. It gives me a lot of time to go around and produce what I like to do, charreria, our culture, our history. I helped out a lot in the Cinco de Mayo celebration in Adelanto. I also was very helpful also in the Hilltop for the Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I go all around the high desert promoting a culture of charreria, the horse world. Especially I want to bring the horse world into the inner city with the inner city kids so they know exactly how beautiful it is, whether it's skateboarding, bike riding, walking your dog, or playing with rabbits. You know, horses is the same thing. I'm very blessed that in this age, this time in my life, it gives me a lot of time for me to read, to analyze a lot of things, and I'm just exercising my First Amendment rights. I have the right to question whether you want to take it one way or another, but all of us have the right to challenge or question or just want more information, that's all. I'm very dedicated here. I've been coming to the meetings since Ms. Angela Valles was here. I was sitting in the back. Sometimes I do come up here and ask some questions. Sometimes I just go back there and write some notes. And when people ask me, I belong to very many groups of groups that are all around the city, whether it's Apple Valley, Adelanto, Phelan, even as far as Llano, California. So we're always connected, and we want to make this a better community. We want to see what the needs of this community is. And if the diocese feels that maybe chemotherapy might be wonderful for the community, for the kids, great. I can bring all my expertise, my 55 years of experience I can have for that. So I love the city, and I just want to make it a better city and a better place for where I can live and raise my kids and my grandchildren. Thank you.
Those are all the cards that I have on this item. Therefore, I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Ramirez to the CSAC.
I second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Gomez, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez. Any further comments?
Yes. Luckily, Mr. Ramirez isn't here today to be the grammarian, the semitician, or the theological expert for the city council. Had the city council required a standardized resume, I would have personally volunteered Mrs. Martin to be the volunteer consultant for the city's resume needs. Consequently, and unfortunately, Mrs. Martin has brought what is called a straw man argument, which is a logical fallacy. In other words, a straw man is a form of argument and an informal fallacy that's based on giving the impression of refuting the opponent's argument while actually refuting an argument that was not present by the opponent. One who engages in this fallacy is said to be attacking a straw man.
Any further comments? Motion made by Councilmember Gomez, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Were there not further comments? I just missed it.
You want comments?
I do, ma'am.
Yes.
Madam Mayor. So just very briefly, I'm not concerned with what the format of the resume looks like or any of that. I'm really, as I did with my nominees, focused on competence, character, and commitment. And I believe this candidate had sought this office years ago and was not appointed, and I don't see anything that would, in here, that would cause me to believe that anything has changed such that he would now be qualified. That's number one. Number two, I understand that there's a history of this particular individual attending agenda review meetings where he became accusatory, and I'm simply not willing to subject our city staff to that kind of behavior that is anathema to teamwork. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
I have a motion by Councilmember Gomez, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No. Motion fails.
Now we move on to item 8, public safety. Recommendation is at the discretion, any action is at the discretion of the city council. This item will be presented by Councilmember Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first of all, thank you to my colleagues for allowing this matter to be placed on the agenda. 2 weeks ago, I requested for this meeting an item for discussion and possible action where we would determine what next steps may be needed to generate revenue for public safety in order that we may set a more positive course for Victorville. Through its debate of November 5th, the council fine-tuned its directives such that our discussion tonight will cover both that piece and, within the context of public safety, those issues that add to or detract from our residents' quality of life, such as code enforcement related matters. As the proposed amendment to specifically consider Victorville having its own police department failed, that necessarily will not be part of our conversation. Madam Mayor, I hand this item back to you, and when so invited, I am prepared to offer a motion for consideration and initiate the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask if we have any questions from staff.
Questions? I'd like to clarify. This item has been raised and discussed by, I think, 3 council members now who are concerned about crime, financing, more police, et cetera, and my reason to incorporate it in as much as possible into one larger subject, rather than try to tackle them individually, is that I think that the ultimate decision has to be for the overall benefit of all the citizens of the city, and I'm concerned that if we start piecemealing it, we will maybe lose track at the end, which is to be make this community a lot safer, and more tracking of a lot of things, which is not only the police department, fire department, public safety, code enforcement, maybe some tightening of the rules and ordinances by the city council themselves. We still see people throwing trash out the window. While it may not be a big deal, cumulatively it is, and yet we try to warn people. I know one property owner has 4 warning letters and loudly proclaims he's not going to do anything the city wants because they're not going to do anything about it. That's where that $5,000 fine would come in really handy. People don't like this kind of discipline, but if everyone understands that they're going to work on behalf of this community, not against it, that they're going to make a contribution to make the community better, then I think that it's easier to greet in on the piecemeal items, or they're not piecemeal, but individual items, so we get finally to the point of what do we really need overall for the community. I think that's going to be scary for a lot of people because it's going to cost money, a lot of money. We had a discussion, we had a question in regard to, and my time is about it, we had a discussion about the police department. I want to say that I have for a long time heard comments from individuals about do we need it, and my experience is we may need it, we can't afford it. Remotely, from the point of view of financing it or the losses that occur, that would scare me to death. But on the other hand, we do contract for some $25.5 million annually, and anytime this council has input from the public and the public has made demand, the council's passed that on to the sheriff and the captain. For the most part, they've been pretty responsive. Where we're not responsive is when people call me and demand to know where the violations are. And we don't tell them, and we're not going to because it will be on the website as the police are on the way to the crack house. So the public is not aware of a lot of the things that we do, and there's a lot of things that the sheriff's department does. But we need the discussion, we need the input from the citizens, and I think with enough input, we're going to find that it isn't one central theme, but it's a lot of issues that we ought to address. If we're really going to make this community we're proud of, we have to start somewhere, and I think this is a good start. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, as a point of order, you may correct me if I am wrong. I'd like to enter this into the record. If you take note, the city manager is seated as the acting Councilmember Jones, while Councilmember Jones is seated as the acting manager. We do have strict policy that we are not complying today, and I want to make sure that the record reflects that because we have had plenty issues with the organization of our chairs. That was not approved publicly, so we are confusing the public when we're not establishing that. So thank you.
I, as the mayor, approved it, and I have every
Did you just do it now? Because nobody knew. I didn't even know until I mentioned it. So I appreciate that you're making that connection right now. Because the seating arrangement is right now thwarted.
Well, there's the next one.
Madam Mayor, if I may, the two individuals that switched seats because the microphone was not working as strong in Councilmember Jones's position, we have actually changed the nameplates in front of them to reflect who they actually are, so they're not sitting in each other, acting in
And
each
thank
other's
you for that
capacity.
clarification. It's just, it's a policy that needs to be by the chair addressed, and it wasn't. And so if she's addressed it now, I'm satisfied.
No, I addressed it before, so you're wrong.
You didn't address it publicly.
I don't know, did you? Okay, let's see, we have, any other questions?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement.
Right now, I'm questions of staff. So if we don't have any questions, then I will move on to the speaker cards.
Yes, we do have questions. 3 minutes, is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. So some of the questions that I'd like to have addressed would come evidence in formats of a paper. We have tried this before in the past. Nothing changes in terms of how we're addressing it today. It's just a new council member bringing it up. That's all it is. The issue has been here before she was here, before I was here. So Measure K was something that was addressed. It didn't pass, it didn't meet the 66%, but there was an expense that came with it. I would like to see the itemized billing in terms of what had already cost us from the first process phase, how much the attorney went ahead and did his argument because it costs us a certain amount unless it's on retainer. Everything that had the council and the administration of the city from the beginning to the very end, we had expenses, it failed. This is not a council decision. It ultimately becomes the taxpayer's vote. If we could decide it, I think it would be decided today how your appropriated monies would come out of the flow of general funds monies. The other thing is, I don't have any knowledge if we're going to be addressing it with what type of tax, because the tax would have to go out. If we would put it during a presidential election, or if it would be during a special election, if we're going to consolidate this, we don't know what the incurred costs. Is this going to double from last time? And if we consider what we spent before when it didn't pass to now, if we're going to go ahead and tailor it and do 50% of the vote versus 66%, that is more feasible. None of that is in front. We're going by, we need more police. Here's the hand, give me some money. We don't have that decision, we can just discuss it. But when we make that decision, ultimately to put it out to you as a voter, are you willing to cough up that extra if you're on a fixed income? And if you are, I would like to see the resources currently expended by our police force. We have 5 to 7 beats. Not at all times are these 5 to 7 beats covered. We have 12-hour shifts for police officers who are overworked, and I do see that. There's a lot of commentary. I would like to see documents, papers, not just think about it and talk about it. Something more data-driven, measurable. I don't know if that's possible, if that's going to be rendered. So all that to say, I can't make a rational decision if I don't have documents or these measures.
Was that your question?
Yeah.
I was looking for a question. This was the time for questions of staff.
And that was the question. I'm sorry that it doesn't adhere to certain people's interpretation of the question, but that's what the question was.
No, I will be making comments after.
Right now, I'm
yeah.
on questions of staff.
Correct.
I think we're getting sidetracked here.
No, I have a statement.
Okay, very good. I do have speaker cards, so I will start calling them. First of all, I have Mark Vine, and after Mark, it will be Linda Titas, or Titas.
You said Mark
Vine, V-I-N.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Mark. I've been a resident of Victorville for over 10 years. I recently started a Crime Watch neighborhood cleanup group for our Victorville residents. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my group members and many concerned residents. Some are sitting in the audience behind me for moral support. We meet up every Saturday to discuss crimes and how we can better our neighborhoods. Many of us are concerned with the increasing crimes taking place in our neighborhoods. These include multiple vehicle break-ins, front doors kicked in, home break-ins, home invasions, package theft, mail theft, kidnapping, gunshots, assaults, drugged-out crackheads, knocking on residents' doors, and residents being harassed. This is not right for us to be dealing with this on a daily basis. We have our problems with our business getting robbed at gunpoint, employees being attacked, residents getting robbed in their vehicles, residents getting robbed in parking lots, etc., also being harassed or threatened by drugged out homeless people. In addition, we have graffiti, tagging, and vandalism of our local businesses. Residents becoming victims in our streets each day from careless drivers, hit and run accidents, red light runners, and speeders. A lot of these criminal activities occur on a daily basis in our city. It's no wonder our sheriff's officers are so overwhelmed with calls. We understand where a lot of these delayed response comes from. It's not their fault. How can law enforcement deal with the overwhelming criminalized mess our city has become? In regards to the multiple armed robberies, assaults, gunshots, multiple thefts, officers being shot at, where are these criminals coming from, we ask? Everyone has a pretty good idea a lot of these criminals are living in our neighborhoods. This is why we need to strongly think about revisiting the criminal-free housing ordinance option for the public safety of our city residents. And no, it is not discriminatory towards certain residents. It only discrimination against the criminal residents destroying our city. This definitely impacts the public safety of our residents. Much more can be said on that at a later time. Why do people call our beautiful city of Victorville Desert of Death, Victimville, or Ghettoville? Look at some of the rundown, dilapidated neighborhoods with broken cars sitting on driveways and streets, all the trash, debris, overgrown vegetation, and no landscaping, marijuana grow houses and meth houses, residents selling illegal drugs, many residents disrespecting the neighborhoods in our city. This should be unacceptable and an embarrassment for our city officials. These were once beautiful tract home developments that attracted a lot of good people. Now we have home values dropping in some areas, which creates more investor opportunities and increased crime. We want people that take care of our neighborhoods, not investors who don't. We are now hearing of a lot of good people wanting to leave our city to move out of state or somewhere safer. This is not good. We need more good, hardworking people with families that have jobs, that take pride, care, and respect for our neighbors and our community to stay in our neighborhoods, not be scared away. People already sacrifice a lot of their time with a long commute to work and sitting in traffic daily. We can't do this to people that help build up our city. Victorville would not exist without these hardworking people that contribute to society. Can our city afford to have people like this leaving in droves? I sure as hell don't want this, and either do most people. These are many reasons why we need more law enforcement, sheriff's deputies, code enforcement to help clean up the criminals and clean up our city. Increase fine for violations.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Linda?
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that light is bothering my eyes and this lady's too. It's direct, it's intense. Could we shift that light and move that light on even with the purpose?
Come to the podium, stop it. If this individual has made a request and has a lot of people who wants more time, I move that we grant additional time, unless he was finished.
I wasn't finished.
You were finished?
I was not finished.
You were not finished?
No, I was. What? Did I get to that time? Can I speak?
Well, it's up to the council.
I made the motion simply because he's representing such a large.
Because it's been under 3 minutes.
It's up to the council.
So for clarification,
She made the
will
motion.
anybody else be speaking, or are you speaking on behalf of the entire group?
She's not supposed to be speaking. She made the.
What is it,
And I
Mr. Cox, that
seconded
you
it.
wanted to do so I can be able to participate in my
Get the
voting?
light out of my eyes, please.
Let me clarify.
Thank you.
This individual, I made a motion to grant him more time to finish the presentation because of the large number of people that he's representing.
And I will second that motion.
We need to make sure that you provide a timing, whether you would like to have an extra half hour, anything like that, that way we can look at the
Don't
timing.
interrupt.
So what is, are you just not giving him?
Point of order.
I have a motion.
Call for the vote.
I have a motion by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mayor Garcia.
So as a point of clarification, I'd like to hear the motion again.
Okay, let's just pause for a moment. You can call the question, but if there's someone that still wishes to speak, then that person is permitted to speak unless there's a second and a vote taken on the calling of the question. Can't just call the question.
So as a point of order, would you repeat that motion?
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Cox, you made a motion to call the question. Is there a second to call the question?
But this council member has a few questions, so I think at this point then it's procedurally correct. Well, okay, go ahead.
So there's a motion to call the question. There was a second to that. You should vote on that, and the question becomes whether or not to allow this gentleman to have more time.
So there are going to be two motions in the
That's correct. So the first motion is to call the question, go right to the issue of whether or not we're going to have a vote to allow this gentleman more time.
Oh, I see. Thank you for the clarification.
So the motion is, motion by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries with Councilmember Jones voting no.
So now the motion before the council to discuss is whether or not we need to vote on allowing this gentleman more time.
So that's what we just voted on.
No,
Vote to
that
call
was
the
the
question.
call.
That was the call debate. And now there's a motion by Mr. Cox. I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Cox made that motion.
Is there a second? Second, to allow the time.
Seconded by Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
All those in favor?
I have a comment on that.
And
So my concern, well, I have a couple questions. If there are other speakers, if they're going to continue, if they will each get their allotted 3 minutes time, and how much are we going to allow the speaker at the podium?
I'm only allowing this gentleman here, the rest will have 3 minutes.
There's 3 minutes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
That was a promotion.
Right, that's the point of clarification. So what was the motion?
The motion right now is to allow this gentleman to have more time.
That's all.
So more time means there is more time interpretation, there's no allotted time, right? Because I.
Some people don't want to hear you folks speak, but I sure do.
No, we do.
You have to presiding officer is doing
I only need 20 seconds.
Madam Mayor, hold on. I think it's unreasonable to say that any council member here doesn't want to hear the concerns of the committee.
I agree.
I want to make sure that what we do is fair to every speaker. And so I'm always concerned when one speaker is given more time than another. That's all I'm getting at is parity in the process. So then I'm going to make a substitute motion that the speaker at the podium, Mr. Vine, be given an additional 30 seconds to conclude his comments, and the remaining speakers on this issue get their normal 3-minute time limit.
Second that.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Gomez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed, I don't want any 30 seconds.
We good?
The motion was to allow the additional time.
Whatever time.
So you're no,
No to let.
Ramirez?
Okay, so just for point of clarification, it's unlimited, so if you speak for the rest of the time, whatever you like.
Well, wait, I don't know what the
30
result of
seconds
the vote is.
was all I requested.
That's your decision.
30 seconds.
Do we hear you speak?
Just continue.
Madam Mayor, I
Okay.
apologize, I just don't understand what the result of the vote was. Can I get?
I believe it's a 2-2. We have not heard what Councilmember Ramirez is
So
voting.
someone is silent on a vote, our policy says that they voted the affirmative.
Go ahead, you have 30 seconds.
Okay. Can our city afford to have people like this leaving in droves? I sure as hell don't want this, and either do most people. These are many reasons why we need more law enforcement, sheriff deputies, and code enforcement to help clean out the criminals and clean up our city. Increase fines for violations. Public safety and having less criminal threat should be #1 priority for our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. Sorry about the confusion. Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor and council members, first of all, I'd like to thank you for entertaining our concerns as residents of Victorville and hearing our concerns. But when you have a problem, you want to come with a solution. And my solution is that we continue to move forward. In August, we had a community meeting led by Deputy Greg Jones that 53 of our business owners in the high desert attended, and we had standing room only, so we could have had more that would have been in attendance. And we were talking about starting a business watch. So we have business watch potential, we have neighborhood watch potential, we have crime watch potential. We as residents of the high desert of Victorville would like to be involved and continue our involvement. We want to continue with standing with you as a council, and we can help with priority 3 and 4 calls. We have COPs, we have neighborhood watch, we have crime watch. We need a task force to address crime. We can talk, we can meet with you, and we can assist. With our rapid growth here in the high desert, we need to have some real agenda items with how we're going to address this, especially with the light rail coming in and others, entities that are bringing more individuals to the high desert. Yes, we can say, oh, we need more sheriffs, but no, we need more eyes, we need more boots on the ground, we need more willing participants. We need apps, we need social media. If we look at the models of the cities that have turned their crime around or prevent crime in their areas, it is a joint effort of everyone working together. So as an active member in the community and part of many, many volunteer organizations, you have help, you have assistance. We have the homeless task force that's in motion. We can do a crime task force. That's all the time that I need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike Brackhorn and Ruth Cordova.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the City of Victorville. I also, with Linda, wanted to thank you for giving us some time to talk about this. And I know some of the things that happen when we do this is we start to label. We labeled the homeless, we labeled the kids, we labeled these people, that ethnic group. And I hope that we don't go to that, because that ends up in vigilante type acts. It divides our community. We need to pull our community together. We all talk about it'd be great to have 50 more officers. I'm sure Captain Bessinger would love that, but we don't have the money for that. But we can watch over ourselves, take care of ourselves, be good citizens, and as this group over here has talked about, and Mr. Messenger came and talked to us about, we can turn into code enforcement. You can do it online. And that's a great way to take care of things. We have so much we need to do. We have a library downtown that looks like it's in a war zone. There's so much. But you know, Councilmember Cox mentioned something really simple. It's trash cans. And if you walk up 7th Street, you can walk blocks and blocks and find maybe 2 trash cans. And he's absolutely right. If there isn't any, they throw it on the ground. The people that come into our town see the trash. And I know it seems like a stupid little thing maybe, but we got to start someplace, and the cost would be very minimal. Also, I know Councilmember Cox tried to pass, or got on the ballot anyway, for public safety. It seems like people in our town, 1 penny on the dollar, they just think it's going to break them. So we're really gonna have to out there and promote that if we ever do that again. Again, I just wanted to thank everybody for their time and for their effort. And I know that we can do this. We have a lot of coalitions. We have a lot of community members. Hopefully we have a lot of people that watch these tapes. We need to get the word out there. We need to pull it all together. And I know that we can. I've lived here for, well, more than I'd like to say, but a lot of years. We used to all work together. Every single one of us all work together. So I hope that we can do that again, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Senator Bruce Ingrid Brackett.
Good evening,
Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, command staff. My name is Ruth Cordova, and I understand I've been following the issues on crime and violence, and I do have a background in the field of law enforcement. And I grew up in the high crime area in the city of Los Angeles. What I'd like the people to know and understand, the reason why we have a very high level of crime is because on or about July of 2019, the Department of Justice announced the release of 3,100 federal prisoners had been released from this prison right here. And this act is a first step act that was pushed by Donald Trump and approved by both parties, Democrat and Republican. Now, the goal is to release 4,000 released prisoners from this prison, and we're 5 months into that, so we can reasonably assume that we're at the 5,000 to 6,000 mark today. Ms. Gomez, respectfully, with respect to your opposition in placing a sales tax, I understand your position as a city councilwoman, and with regards to fiscal operations. But you see, Councilwoman, that was a long time ago. Since then, see, our law enforcement will never be able to put an impact on crime and keep up with the criminal population being released here with this act today. There will be a rise in felony crimes, rape, robberies, burglaries, homicides, and home invasions. And I will tell you that we have a large amount of illegal immigrants coming to this community to give them families a better way of life. They came to the United States for that. But they're the most vulnerable because they carry cash at home. They're the taco guy, they're the elote guy who got robbed. They're business owners, but they have cash at home and they're fearful to report crimes. But all people have a right to equal protections of the law. Illegal immigrants too. Regardless of sex, race, color, creed, or national origin, all people have an equal protection to the right of the law. Now, the class of people who are being released are drug addicts, drug users, cocaine traffickers, and drug traffickers. With that comes the rise of crime and violence. However, what I propose to you today is if you put a measure on this ballot, a public safety measure, with a separate tax, a sales tax, with a separate tax for the general fund, that's where you're going to make your money. That's where the city's going to make their money, because you've got 5,000, 6,000 people who have been released. But there will be a rise in sales in your smoke shops for the drug paraphernalia. So 7-Elevens, the liquor stores, the bars, the restaurants, there'll be a rise in sales in the beer, the cigarettes, and the wine. Please consider yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ingrid Hitt, and after Ingrid, Paul Cornelius.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Gloria Garcia. My name is Ingrid Hitt, and I've been a Victorville resident for over 23 years. And I'm here to address a very important issue of the ever-increasing violent crime rate here in Victorville. Although the crime rate here in Victorville has dropped slightly by only 6.19% from 2018 compared to 2017, it has increased considerably since 2015. Victorville population is estimated to be 122,000 to 125,000. The FBI source of offenses for Victorville is based on cities with population of 100,000 or more residents. The available crime stats from the FBI indicate crime in Victorville from 2015 through 2018, violent crimes increased in this 4-year period to 26%. Murder rose a staggering 200% during this time period. Rape increased from 2014 through 2018 by 62%. In 2016, violent crimes increased to 52.61% over the national average. Property crimes increased to 16.62%, again, over the national average. While the population of Victorville continues to increase, Victorville city officials fail to increase our law enforcement services proportionately to address the ever-increasing violent crime occurring in our once beautiful, peaceful, and friendly city. Lifetime residents of this city no longer feel safe. When will the crime spree stop? City officials must take positive steps to stop this violence immediately. Give our law enforcement the tools and additional manpower to fight crime. Our council members need to step up their game to fight crime. We're asking you to help in this. Bottom line, we need more manpower, so hire more deputies so they can do the job that's expected of them. What should be the number one priority of this council? Public safety. To the council member who thinks that we should have our own police department, you have no idea what the cost of such an effort would be. We're talking millions. I also find it to be unprofessional and offensive for city council members to wear inappropriate clothing attire with vulgar profanity. To the council members as a whole, I ask you, isn't it a legal requirement to have an interpreter present when council members are speaking in foreign language? Thank you, council members, for your time and for caring, and the mayor for your time.
Thank you very much. Paul Cornelius, and then after Paul, Raymond MacArthur.
Hello, Madam Mayor, council members. It's a pleasure to be here again, speaking on this issue. I'm excited to see the issue of public safety before the council tonight. This is something that is obviously on the minds of the residents in the community of Victorville. I would like to suggest to the city to encourage the participation of residents for a neighborhood watch. You can do this through social media, which costs no money, essentially, and using the golden rule is if you see something, say something. This is a golden rule just to get out to the public and let them know that if they see something going wrong or they see a suspicious or unlawful activity occurring, report it to the police. I mean, that's about all you can do before you actually turn into a vigilante like somebody else is talking about this evening. At the last meeting, it was the neighborhood watch was brought to the attention of the council, and again at this meeting tonight, showing that it is in the interest of the public and that they are looking for guidelines and to the city council to a voice to create a safer community. So great work for opening up the floor for the public on the issue of public safety in the written comments. Great job. Secondly, I would like to propose or participate in a park watch, seeing that I am the skateboarder that's here, usually talking about the skate park. So just looking ahead of the curve, I know that drug and alcohol use are common occurrences at skate parks, and I would hate for the city of Victorville to fall into that pattern. A good example is just very recently in the city of San Clemente, some kids were having like somewhat of a band rehearsal, I guess, at a skate park, and a off-duty sheriff's deputy of Orange County went and actually pulled the gun on him because he thought he was going to be attacked, but it was a big issue. And so what we could do for this is raise awareness of unlawful activities and prevent drug use at the skate park and in the parks, because this is actually a common occurrence, not just in the city of Victorville. This is a lot of places. So I actually participated in a similar project to this in the city of Norwalk after a friend of mine was shot to death at the skate park. They were going to close the skate park, and through efforts of myself and other local skateboarders, we were able to keep it open. So I do have somewhat kind of a little experience as far as helping the community to create a safer skate park. I know that this isn't really what everybody is talking about. They're talking about more of a neighborhood watch and a crime watch, but it still applies to the whole idea that is going to be coming. And since we saw the video of the new playground as well, I mean, we want to make this skate park as family friendly as possible to the community. And I believe that it could be a well-known staple of the city of Victorville. So again, just thank you guys for opening up this discussion for the public, and yeah, great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Raymond MacArthur, and after Raymond, Cam Ernstrappen.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is kind of new for me. I've never done this before, but anyhow, I'd like to, express how I feel about what's been going on in Victorville. I moved here in 2004, and this year here I had a car run into my house, and nobody knew it. I wasn't there, and I was in Fillmore, and my neighbor called me, and I came home, and my house was really destroyed. So I don't know what's going on. I live at Buttermilk in Cinnapath, and people come through. There's a stop sign there. They come through there, and they don't even stop. They just straight through, and they speed down and hit the next block. So, but anyhow, that's all I have to say.
I'm sorry, what street did you say that was?
Cinnapath and Buttermilk. Yeah. So we got a problem with being able to enforce the laws here. I know my son, he's a commander with the Oxnard Police Department in Oxnard. But up here, I've heard the statement of Victorville, which I didn't like. So, anyhow, but thank you anyhow.
Thank you, sir. Kim, Vernon Stratton?
Close enough.
What is it?
Reverse Stratton.
Reverse Stratton.
Thank you very much for your time, all of you. I've never spoken in public before. I'm one of the newest members of this community, and I've been broken into twice before I ever moved into my mobile home. The second time was only 2 weeks ago, and the police were so busy that they never showed up for days. They only stole personal things. But really personal things, like my grandmother's sewing box. So, the first time they broke in, they broke a $250 window, which I've saved enough money now to get fixed. It's been boarded up for a couple of months. This last time they jimmied the back door, and they take stuff, that's personal things, because I have never moved anything into that place, like a microwave or a TV or anything that they could sling under their arm and take away. These are people that live in the riverbed. The police have tried to get rid of them, but they say they don't have the tools to do it, the laws to do it, which is absolutely unbelievable. At this point, I really don't even want to move to Victorville because of being unsafe. So I thank you for your time, but I want you to know how serious this is. And our whole mobile home park has been broken into time and time again. And there must be 100 mobile homes there. It's out on Stoddard Wells Road. But the police say, you call up and they say, this must be River Ranch. Yes, it is. So that tells you how often they're out there. And we have a neighborhood watch, and we're trying to do stuff, but there's more police that's needed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jennifer Naird?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Jennifer Neri, and I'm part of the group from the group Fruit, which is Revive Old Town. I want to start off by reading the definition of public safety, and this is from the definitions on the website. It says public safety. This term is used in many capacities by countries, states, cities, and regions and to describe the authority and responsibilities the entity oversees. The public safety issue a city might grapple with include narcotic use, trespassing, burglary, harassment, juvenile delinquency, unauthorized living, noise, littering, inappropriate social behavior, DUIs, and other quality of life issues. The following definition only looks at a higher level of functions such as a country's task force, involves the prevention of and protection from events that could endanger the safety of the general public from significant danger, injury, harm, or damage, such as crimes or disasters. And I just wanted to, clarify that. And there's different techniques that we can work together as a community to overcome some of the crime that's in our neighborhood. And that, if you look it up, Google it, there's all of these next techniques always go back to the same issues, which is to join a town watch and knowing your neighbors' trouble spots and keeping streets and homes well lit deter any possible burglaries. When criminals see a well-marked neighborhood with town watch and security system signs, it makes them think twice before committing a crime. Town watch programs have helped communities experience a 16 and 26% reduction in crime compared to areas not involved in a town watch. Getting to know your neighbors. If you know your neighbors, they can look after your house, you can look after theirs, and vice versa. There's also getting involved with local organizations. By getting involved, neighbors can become better acquainted and make the connections necessary to keep communities safe. Create a favorable rapport with your local police enforcement. Involve your local law enforcement to get involved in community events. Get to know who they are and respect what they do. By creating a relationship with your local law enforcement, you can communicate community concerns more effectively and become an extension of their force. Create a cleaner neighborhood. Burglars are attracted to unkept neighborhoods. A community with litter, abandoned cars, and rundown buildings tells burglars that they do not care about where they live or about their neighbors. And it says also keep your neighborhoods clean and safe. Stay current with crime trends. Knowing what's happening in your neighborhood and those around you can help you understand the possible warning signs of impending crime. Knowing what's happening and be ready to report any suspicious activity in your local law enforcement. These are techniques that Root has adopted in our strategies for the number of people who feel safe in Old Town. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Michael Martin.
Good evening again, Your Honor, Counsel. Just off the cuff. It's getting near my bedtime, so bear with me. I'd like to say about public safety to this group of people over here. First of all, I commend them highly for coming out and speaking about this, but there's some basic things that need to be understood here. One of them is the man sitting over there, who is the third captain since I've been coming 3 or 4 years to these council meetings, is not responsible for the crime that's happening in this city. The members sitting on this council right here are not responsible. They did not create, like you read in social media, they did not create the crime. There was a lady that was just talking, I think she left, yes, and I caught the tail end of it, wanting to move to Victorville, but reluctant. Let me tell you something. Not only do I not feel safe in Victorville, because I've been a multiple victim of crime, including at the Veterans Day Parade, and personal assaults, things like that. Not only Victorville, but come on people, realize where you're living. You're living in the HD. You're living in Southern California. In fact, you're living in California, a state which does not, it may prosecute, but my standing thought on it is, and I've shared it, is you've just got to be stabbed and bleeding and lying for dead in the street before that individual who did it is going to be successfully not only prosecuted, but more just as equally important, any appropriate sentence attached to it. Okay, so you have to look at this legislature, which is crap city. So, that said, the fear that I have with people that get together like this, and I think it's wonderful, but understand something. Don't take matters into your own hands. There's a saying and an expression, it goes like this: never trouble trouble until trouble troubles you. Your home, your yard, your kids, and maybe your immediate neighbors on both sides and across the street. But I certainly would not support any idea or concept thereof of jumping in our vehicles at 11 o'clock on Friday night and go looking for trouble. Because trust me, if you go looking for it, you're gonna find it. I don't even look for it, and I see it. But I have a little bit more of a trained eye. I see it everywhere I go. And I gotta put my blinders on and try not to blow up dispatch. So I'm just concerned that I need the captain to know. He needs to hear it from the public as well as you, that we support you. We support what you're trying to do, but you're not the end all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Those are all the cards, speaker cards that I have. At this time, Ms. Jones, did you want to make a motion?
I do, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I move that the council, in the interest of significantly enriching the quality of life for Victorville residents, direct the city manager to bring back for review and possible action, number 1, a comprehensive plan for improving public safety with a particular focus on community policing, community police relations, code enforcement, fire, and animal control. And number 2, a viable option or options for generating revenue toward that end. And further, that in the interim, the council be able to continue its dialogue on this issue should it be deemed necessary. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm ready to initiate discussion when you're invited.
I'd like to modify that motion that she just addressed to include a timeline that is preferable to the city council in terms of when will we be meeting, when will this be agendized.
May I clarify, Madam Mayor? So is the question, Councilmember Gomez, when you would like to see the comprehensive plan come before the council?
So is it next time? Is it within 60 days, 90 days, a time?
Sure, yeah, great question. So if I may offer a substitute with all of my previous language, including a timeline of 4 months.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Gomez. Any further comments?
Yes, Madam. Yes, Madam Mayor. And this is procedurally a little bit different than normal because we need to be able to have a beefy conversation on this. So, Madam Mayor, at this point, may I initiate discussion on this? Thank you. And I don't know if it would be preferable at this point to, because normally we have the discussion before a vote. I just don't want to get that whole motion lost in the discussion that we're about to have. So. Okay, so I'll go ahead and begin the discussion. So first and foremost, I'm so very grateful to our community members that took time from their busy schedules to come and share with us their thoughts and their views and their experiences. I cannot begin to tell you how important that is to me, and I have every reason to believe that it's equally important to all my colleagues behind the dais. So my goal in bringing this item forward is to improve the quality of life for our residents and to better anticipate the needs of our community over the long term. And though I speak for myself, I have every confidence that the well-being of children and families matters to each council member here. I don't think it would be a stretch to say that in adding to our own personal experiences with crime and reports of crime, as well as delayed response time, we have heard loud and clear from our community tonight that something more must be done, something meaningful and transformative. This issue is near and dear to my heart because over the years I personally interrupted a number of violent crimes in Victorville. And one of them, my then not quite 10-year-old daughter, was so traumatized that she ultimately had to have therapy for several years for PTSD. PTSD. As to the crimes, I've intervened in ways that law enforcement, I know, probably would not recommend to private citizens. But increasingly, private citizens are the ones feeling compelled to step up their efforts to provide not only for their own safety, but also for the safety of their family and neighbors. In no way do I wish to portray our law enforcement as irresponsible or unsympathetic to our plight. To the contrary, they are committed to our safety and welfare, but they can only do so much given limited resources and high demand for service. Frankly, I don't believe I'm alone in being unwilling to turn a blind eye when I see a woman being robbed at gunpoint in a grocery store parking lot, when I see a construction worker being assaulted with a gun by two thugs, when I see a man, and I use that term lightly, sucker punch a woman walking down on Bear Valley Road. And as of last Friday, the 40-something-year-old man who rear-ended my daughter's car, which was, by the way, my car, then sped off. I hear hit and run is quite common nowadays. Like so many here tonight, I am ready to roll up my sleeves to make Victorville a healthier, safer place to live, work, and conduct business. But our neighbors should never feel like they live in the wild west of old, or that they must take on the role of a deputy marshal Wyatt Earp. Victorville's population has doubled since I moved here 16 years ago. There is every expectation that our population will continue to grow. Much will need to be accomplished to position ourselves as a city who deals with public safety more proactively, sensibly, and justly. We must be a shining light in the high desert when it comes to public safety. I trust that this council, beginning this very night, will lead the charge to carry out the will of the people to make Victorville an inhospitable place for crime and restore to it the small town values and charm it once knew. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Public safety is a basic right. Everybody deserves it. You go home, you should be safe. I feel the same way that you do, and I've been saying it for a long time. I had a conversation with the city manager regarding this, and he brought it to my attention that our sheriff captain and he have been looking at a tentative plan. I felt confident that there was something in our future that was going to help us resolve this problem. So I said to our city manager, I promise to support you. I am waiting for that plan because I know that our law enforcement and our city truly puts our residents as our priority. And so therefore, let me say, I'm asking that on our agenda that we have tentatively a presentation of our future public safety for all our residents. I don't want you to think that we don't have one. They are working it because of the financial costs. It isn't easy to just hire anyone and then find the money. So I'm simply saying to you, I have confidence in both our law enforcement, our sheriff captain, and our city manager, who have said to me that they are getting ready to give us that plan. So I wait, like you, for the safety of our lives and the safety of our homes. So please give us a little confidence, support, and pray a lot so that we can be there for you as well, because this is something that is affecting all of us. And I certainly wouldn't want any of you to not understand that we care. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. Two important items. Number one, thank you for getting involved. Stay involved and hold our feet to the fire. Best thing you could do.
So none of my questions were addressed during the question section of the council staff, and because of that, I'm making a formal oral request to have all records pertinent to Measure K to be delivered to my inbox and hard copies. None of them were responded, so I expect that. The thing that I'd like to ask or make comment is, let me clarify, as a citizen, I don't look forward to any taxation, any increases in taxes, and many of us don't. If you recall, the no taxation without representation is a political slogan that originated in the 1700s that summarized one of 27 colonial grievances of the American colonists in the 13 colonies, which was one of the major causes of the American Revolution. With that said, one citizen's vote doesn't make that difference. However, during my term in office, the voter or the electorate does not, they do decide for all of us. I don't appreciate being singled out of this matter. We know overtly what we say here openly. You don't know how we vote in that discretion of our mailboxes, of our boxes for voting as we register and we do all that. Now, according to the city, I would say the police force needs to have accountability for sure. With our offices, with our lives, when we have officers that live in your backyard, they're going to schools to send their children at the VEUSD, at the VESD. That means they're not only doing that, but they're shopping, they're eating, and they're making very strong ties with you. And they're seeing who you are, and you're seeing who they are, their names and all of that, right? So public safety is incumbent to all of us. And I don't appreciate when I have commenters up here doing that continuous strawman fallacious argument. Because we understand that what all that does is causes class politics and division. I would say practice what you preach, therefore it's an old cliche, but it does regard to its meaning. And secondly, I'm greatly appreciative of the public commenters that they would not be addressing just singling just one person, because you don't know how I think. You presume how I think and reinterpret. And if you watch how I ask questions, they're very meticulously done. So please don't interpret what I desire to have as a vote. You can ask me for sure. What I would like to see done is looking at the response time and looking at those measurable variables. What is the solution? There's not just one solution. There's multiple solutions. We're not looking at them. And just to go back, I appreciate Councilmember Gomez and Councilmember Jones telling us that we need to review and have a possible action in regards to a comprehensive plan, they're comprehensive. Also, community policing, which has been attempted in the past, code enforcement, fire, and also the review, the revenues, right? How is this going to be paid? That's important. And the continued dialogue, mind you, is a hypothetical, if it demanded any requirement or any recommendation. So thank you for being very, very clear on that. I will be expecting every one of those things that we voted on.
I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Gomez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Just for clarification, is that to improve public safety, the report from our city manager? What was the actual moment?
Shall I read the motion again? I'm so happy to. So the motion was that the council, in the interest of significantly enriching the quality of life for Victorville residents, direct the city manager to bring back for review and possible action within a 4-month period of time. Number 1, a comprehensive plan for improving public safety with a particular focus on community policing, community police relations, code enforcement, animal control, and fire. And 2, a viable option or options for generating revenue toward that end. And further, that in the interim, the council be able to continue its dialogue on this issue should it be deemed necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I understand.
We're on E1 now. Public comment.
So now we move on to public comments. And this will be a 3-minute time limit. I only have one card. Anyone?
I just submitted before the meeting the public comment card as a matter of habit. Anything really didn't pop up until we were talking about Mr. Ramirez and the D7 item. And for those of you who don't know, I think most on the council do, but I don't know about behind me. I've known Ms. Jones for a very long time. I've known her longer than I've known anybody in this room, having been acquainted as I was in her, what's the right word, Ms. Jones, as I worked for the school district and retired from where she was a board member. I have the utmost regard and respect. In fact, I can't think of too many people walking the face of the earth, other than maybe him, and her, and you guys, that I have more respect for and would do anything for Ms. Jones. You know what I mean? But I do have to take exception, Ms. Jones, with no offense to you whatsoever intended, when, from my perspective, okay, not yours, but from my perspective, when somebody is applying for a job, there's a resume, and they want to know everything about you. They want to hear, where were you employed, Maggie? AESD, address, Maggie, 11824 Air Expressway, Atlanta, 92301. They want to know that phone number, and I can't do it right now. But it needs to be explicit. And the reason I'm adamant about this, let me tell you why as quickly as I can. The text world, the tech generation, the last 20 years. My daughter and I have gotten into so many fights over, she sends me a text message, which means I gotta stop what I'm doing and look at it, and I go, what? What is she talking about? No punctuation, one big run-on sentence covering multiple subjects, and I'm like, this is insanity. How can we, and I see it everywhere. I see it in professional publications. I see it everywhere. So when I see something being accepted that was presented to this council like that, when I'm referencing D7, I'm like, that's just further validation of my core belief that the standard has been going down in the last 20, 30 years or more. I learned reading, writing, and arithmetic, and English, and history, and U.S. Constitution. That's what I learned. That's all I know. That's all I need to know. But I do know when I see professional versus non-professional work product. I about fell over when I saw that. So that's where we disagree. But you're a much gentler, kinder person than I am. Thank you, Ms. Jones.
That was the only card that I had under public comments. Therefore, we move on to reports from our city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Just a few items to report, a couple of project updates to share with you. First, we're not done with the Bear Valley Bike Path. We're actually finishing the next leg, expected to be done by the end of the month. That's the leg that extends from where we just had the grand opening there at Fish Hatchery, actually traversing up towards Jacaranda right there, paralleling Bear Valley Road, southeast part of Big Valley College. $1.2 million project, completely grant funded. So that'll be our next segment of completion of the citywide bike path. La Mesa 395, finally making some good progress there. We have our signal poles set starting today, and paving will probably be delayed with rain coming in tonight. It's not raining now, but effectively that project now is moving forward. Now it'll be a fully functioning signal at La Mesa 395. We're expecting a couple of months for completion on that now that we're started. Doris Davies Park, the skate park, bid opening is this Thursday. Once we have the results from that, we'll report back to the council. Some community services activities. First Friends of the Library book sale is going to be held Wednesday, November 20th, and Saturday, November 30th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Both days. It's at the Victorville Library, $5 per bag, or buy one book, get one book free. That's at the Victorville Library. Water conservation, garden design applications workshop. This is to help those that are thinking about wanting to do something differently with their front yard. I might have to attend this myself. That's Friday, November 22nd, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. here at Victorville City Hall. No charge. Participants will learn step-by-step process of developing a well-planned landscape design. Also at the Victorville Library, we have a book signing and author discussion with a gentleman by the name of Tommy Anderson on Saturday, November 23rd, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's at your Victorville Library, no charge to attend. That's all I have this time.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to E3, and this is for council members' discussion and possible action regarding items for the upcoming city council agenda. And I will start with Ms. Gomez.
So it's to agendize the CSAC that needs to continue to be looking for a potential committee member to address that. That's my motion for that one.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Gomez, seconded by Councilmember Jones. Who has a question?
It's to agendize the appointment to the Citizens Advisory Committee, Community Services.
What is
Services.
We're all vacant.
It's
There's two vacancies.
Just two vacancies.
So, we'll be doing recruitment. Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Gomez, seconded by Councilmember Jones. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The second thing is to discuss agendizing WELLS, a 6-month program that's coming up for approval, and potential action coming up for 2020. So that's my motion, sorry.
I'm sorry, what was it? I didn't understand.
WELLS is a program for water policy for local municipals, local elected officials that are in these positions. So I just want to agendize that item.
They're not understanding what you're saying.
I mean, this is not for discussion. All I can say is I'm trying to agendize a WELLS, which is a California water policy for 2020's program that's coming up. If that's agendized, I can further explain if you don't want to. I mean, I just made a motion.
Is there a second? There would be no second, the motion dies.
The third one is we have different events coming up with the League of California City, which the city of Victorville does have membership. There's one in December and then one coming up, I believe it's January or thereof, close to next year. And I'd like to have those agendized as well. Agendized so we can discuss them.
There's a second?
Yes, for purposes of clarification. So is it to discuss attendance?
Yes, conference work or anything like that.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Gomez, second by Councilmember Jones, to discuss attendance with the league. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No.
No, because, I have a question. Isn't there a policy on attendance?
We have a policy.
We went through weeks of discussion. What are we going to discuss, changing the policy?
No, there's nothing to discuss.
Well, we have a policy. Do we not?
I believe you have a policy, doesn't specify the attendance specifically at the league, but it does specify attendance at various conferences.
This
And
is
there's a-
specifically the big California cities have two items coming in. We have a policy.
But it requires prior approval of the
Right,
council.
it does, require prior approval, so that's the request here.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia voting no.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Jones, did you pass something?
I'm going to postpone it to the next meeting. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, I think.
Yeah, I do have items, but I'm going to postpone to our next meeting. Thank you.
Yes, I do. One of the things that's been happening in regard to neighborhood watches, I think that we have made it clear that our police chief has officers available to meet with different communities, in the city, and they do, they're available for those people who want to know that. Our staff has been meeting with people that have concerns regarding different areas. They will continue, so I don't want anybody to go away. I hope I'm right on this, but the manager can clarify. Staff is still available to meet with those concerned citizens who have specific ideas and code enforcement, what's happening in their neighborhood. I don't want people to believe that, well, they're going to go away and not hear anything for 4 months until we suddenly present a report. Staff's going to stay involved, I hope.
I'm sorry, I'm still on discussion and possible action regarding items for the upcoming.
Well, I misunderstood, and I have no items for upcoming.
Okay, now we are on reports from council members
I have nothing to report.
or to discuss. Nothing?
No, that's it.
Anyone else?
We're on E40, yes, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. All right, well,
Here.
I find myself with a very thankful heart as we approach Thank you. So I find myself with a very thankful heart as we approach Thanksgiving Day. I am so very grateful for the community members who routinely show up here at council meetings and take from their time from their busy schedules to participate in the discussions and the decisions of our city. And for the newest attendees to our council meeting, I'm so very thankful because what was said here tonight was articulated well and hit home. I will not forget the woman who spoke here tonight. With a trembling voice, we all heard it. Who spoke about whether or not she really wanted to move into Victorville. I'm thankful for my community for being permitted the opportunity to serve. I'm thankful for law enforcement and the hard work each deputy does to look after our safety. I'm thankful to all of the employees in Victorville who work so hard to make this a place we can proudly call home. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
Sure. Okay. I would like to say that I have the honor to be able to serve the city of Verona this coming Saturday, the 23rd, their Thanksgiving. The Said Angulo and Basil Killebrew are going to be giving the city of Verona a Thanksgiving dinner free. And I think that we should be very grateful for such two wonderful people who take to their heart those that are in need. And last of all, hopefully nothing else will be wrong, but happy Thanksgiving. And I hope you have a great time enjoying whatever you have. Maybe it might be turkey, but it might be ham or even a hot dog, but whatever it is, enjoy and remember, we are all grateful for you, and I'm grateful for my country. God bless America.
Well, I want to wish each and every one of you a very happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you have family that you can enjoy it with. Since we're talking about public safety and people's hurts and everything, I lost my son's only biological child, my granddaughter, to a very vicious crime. She left a 2-year-old son, and yet I love my city. I love all of you. I love all the residents, not just in Victorville. I love people. And yet I give of myself. I don't have to, but I do. And I sit here twice a month and get the abuse that I get from a council member who's very disrespectful. Not from the public. The public respect me. But I just want you to know that I still have God in my heart. I will have a Thanksgiving day. I'm not saying that it will be a joyful one with my family, because I still have family. And I just want to say that I hope that you enjoy your day, Christmas, New Year's. These are very hard times for families that have lost their loved ones. Nevertheless, I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. That's all we have for tonight. Meeting is adjourned.
No, I also would like to do comments. I don't know why you're adjourning, but if that's the case, and to the record, I'd like to say you didn't give me an opportunity. You were just adjourned though.
Don't get different. Just go ahead.
Inappropriate just to reconvene to hear the comments. Absolutely.
So you're reconvening, I'm assuming? I appreciate the reconvening of that. Not, I would have not given my comment. Es un gusto saber que nuestra comunidad está activa y despertando, poniéndose en las pilas de acuerdo con sus derechos y privilegios en la ciudad, de acuerdo con nuestros permisos, de acuerdo con los negocios que se ponen a cada día, de acuerdo a saber cuánto es el costo del agua, los automóviles que se compran de tiempo a tiempo y mucho más. Si su dinero se queda y no se usa para los impuestos y no tienen una voz, sabemos que no tenemos representación. Sin embargo, si ustedes que me miran pueden atender y ver los videos que tenemos aquí, es muy importante lo que estamos haciendo aquí. Thank you for making the effort to attend and speak in person. It's very forceful. However, your priorities are the priorities of a lot of our conscious minds, but there are also other priorities in place. I look forward to the importance of maximizing the public's presence and the voice on social media, to participate more in all the events that are offered. I look forward to seeing you at the upcoming tree lighting ceremony, as well as the Christmas parade that's coming up soon. We have meetings scheduled for December 3rd and December 2nd. At 5 o'clock for closed session, that is always open for you to come and give public comment just before we go on to closed session. And at 6 o'clock for general knowledge of the business, how we're casting our votes on your behalf. Thank you very much, and like my colleagues have said, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and happy Thanksgiving. Muchas gracias. Hasta pronto.